this. This will wrap this up no matter how far we get. Even if we don't get done today, we will wrap this relational life up in this, because we're going to move on to something else that God's been laying on our heart. But we're going to look at still on the line. Still on the line. Now, that's not a bad thing. That's a positive thing. Still on the line, still connected, still in touch, still in tune. Now, there's only one way to be on the line, and that is it has to be both ways. One way is not on the line. It has to be both ways. Connection has to be between two. And so we're going to look at today, still on the line. I have got way too much material. I'll just tell you right up front. When I put it together for Bryce, if it hits 2 pages, I'm about good. If it goes beyond 2, I'm in trouble. And so I think I finished up at about 2 3/4, somewhere near 3 when I sent it to him. And I had already chopped some out. And so I got a long way to go. So here's my wife. You know, my wife helps me to know me.
Yeah. I heard that.
Where's the men in this place? I heard a few of you. My wife helps me to know me. And I did not know some things about me. And she said, honey, now when you get nervous and feel like people are not going to get your point, you just park there and you just kind of, she didn't say this, but she said, you kind of just go on and on and on. So you just have to just leave it with them. And so I'm going to do that today, okay? So I'm not going to get a park when I look around and see like you're like, I'm just going to have to leave it with you. You just have to think about it, you know, and come see me later or something. I don't know what to tell you. But I got a long way to go, but I got to go to the end. I mean, I just got to get where we're going today, all right? How many's still on the line? Amen. Yeah. We're gonna walk through most of their entire life. And we're going to go fast. Here's our scripture for today. The Lord had said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's house to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on the earth will be blessed through you. That's quite a promise, isn't it? What a promise. That is power-packed. I like to be blessed. Anybody else in this place like to be blessed? But I'll tell you what, he said, not only will I bless you, but I will make you a blessing. I will help you to bless others. Yes, sir. And I'm coming to find something after a few years of walking with Jesus, not walking with the devil. I'm coming to find that when I'm blessing others, I'm most blessed myself. That's when I see somebody else succeed, and I had a hand in that. Or I see God put some relationships back together, and I had a hand in that. That's good. That's good stuff. He said, I'm not only going to bless you, Abram, I'm going to make you a blessing. How rich. How rich. And on that promise, I ran across something. Now listen, this is going to be a stretch for some of us, but just stretch. Just stretch on. Because this was so good that I just thought this has got to go in here. And so I'm just going to read it. This is from F.B. Meyer. And if you don't know who that is, just look it up later. F.B. Meyer said this: God's commandments are always associated with promises. Count the shalls and wills here, meaning in that text. He does not give his reasons, but he is lavish of his promises. The keynote of Abram's life was separation, step by step, until country, kindred, lot, worldly alliances, and fleshly expedients were one by one cast aside, and he stood alone with God. Though he knew not whither he went, the father of the faithful obeyed and crossed the wide and perilous deserts. It was this absolute and unquestioning obedience that endeared him to God. Let us ever obey and step out, though it seems as though there were not but seething mist. We shall find it solidify under the tread of faith. Woo! Some of you will catch up with that later and think, wow, that is rich. And then he tells us to read Romans 4:16, Hebrews 11:8, and to notice the combination of the tent and altar. The tent life is natural to the man whose portion is God. And where he pitches his tent, he will rear his altar. Yeah, I thought, man, that at first that was just for me. When I was studying, I ran across and I thought, oh, wow. And then I thought, that's not just for me, that's for others too. Hallelujah. We are sojourners. That means we are pilgrims on a journey to a country. The Bible said that Abraham sojourned and looked for a country. It was not in this world, but it was a country whose builder and maker was God. Hallelujah. Abram and Sarah in Egypt because of a famine. Now, right after God gives this promise, there comes a famine on the journey after Abram had set out. So here's the deal. He left his home. He left his father and his mother. He left his friends. He left all of this behind. And he took some things. He took Sarah, and he left out to go do what God said to do. He headed out on the journey. And after he took out on the journey, then all at once he's going along, and where he was going there was a famine, and so he slipped down in Egypt. Now, some of you is going to have to go back and recap this and proof text me. Let's see. It's going to take you from chapter 12 to about chapter 19 to get the whole gist of what's going on in the book of Genesis. I have listened to those chapters probably 25 times this past week. I thought there's just so much in here, I'm just going to keep chewing on it, so I just kept chewing and chewing. So he heads out and he ends up in Egypt. Now here's the deal about the journey with God. Just because God calls us and we say yes, it does not mean things are going to get easy. He never has promised that. He didn't promise Abram that, but he said, I will be with you. I will hear you, I see you, and I will be with you on this journey. But notice this. There was no promises associated. You just hang out, Abram. I'm going to bless you where you are. You just kick back and watch Netflix. And I love you. Every now and then just pick up the phone so I can say I love you. Never was that a promise. The promise was, Abram, pick up, pack up, head out. I'll bless you. I'll bless you. I'll be with you on this journey. Some of you sitting in here looking at me and I'm looking at you. Things are not easy. And I'm not making light. I'm not by no means making fun. And just because I've got a tie on in front of you does not mean that my life doesn't come with troubles either. And I'm not making light of yours. But what I'm saying is, he didn't promise easy. Thank you. He didn't promise easy. He promised good. He didn't promise easy. He promised to be along with us on the journey. Do you see the difference? Do you see the difference? And so he set out and things got hard. They ended up in Egypt, and I can't park here. I got to keep moving very fast. But what happens is, he said, I tell you what, Sarah, you just tell these people that you're my sister. Yeah. It got kind of weird right there, didn't it? Well, the fact of the matter is that she was his half-sister. It was his wife and his half-sister. And now listen, this is the book of Genesis. This was early on. They didn't have a whole lot of options. Things was a little weird then. Hopefully they're getting better now. Anyway, I better move on. So he gets in big trouble down in Egypt. And the leader that's leading Egypt says, listen, you lied to me. You said this was your sister, and I took her to be my wife. That's a long story, ain't it? How'd all that happen? You have to go back and read it. And he's like, now I'm finding out that it is your wife because God told me and you didn't tell me. You said it was your sister. He's like, God come and done some bad things to me because I was about to with your wife.
Yeah.
Some of you in here are like, oh, God cares about that? I'm like, yes, he does. Anyway, so they get in big trouble, and somehow God helps them out of it, and they get out of it. Why did I park here for just a minute? Why did I even bring us here for just a minute? Because I done some dumb stuff back there. I done a lot of dumb stuff, living for the devil. And then I got saved by the grace of God in my bedroom. Glory. And then looking back, I've still done a few dumb things. I wish I didn't, but I did. And yet when God showed up and said, whoa. I said, okay, Lord, I'm still on the line. I'm still on the line. The connection is still clear. And God said, yes, it is. Just listen to me. I'll help you out of this if you let me. I'll help you out of this if you'll let me. I'll help you move on if you let me. I said, okay, Lord. Is anybody listening to me? Is anybody listening to me? He said, I'll help you if you let me. And so God got them out of that, and they marched on, still on the line, still intact. God said, I hear you. I see you. I'm with you. Abram looked at God and said, I hear you. I see you. I'm with you. And it went both ways. Hallelujah. And they moved on. Let's go. And then God makes a covenant with Abram. Now, this is real special, so I had to put a scripture with it. After this, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I'm your shield, your very great reward. Well, why would God tell him that? Don't be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. I'll protect you, and I'm your great reward. You'll find the greatest pleasure in me. Why would he tell him that? Because he got scared in Egypt and messed some things up. And so when God makes a covenant promise with him, he says, Abram, you don't have to try to fix things yourself. Yes, we need to think. Yes, we need to have some stability of mind. We do need to do that. As a matter of fact, some of us need to probably think 3 times and then act once. Yeah. Some of us, as I said. And so God makes him this promise in the middle of this time because of what he's been through so far. And so God shows up and he makes this covenant promise with him. Well, what is the deal with this covenant? God says, this is what I'm going to be to you, for you. This is what I am, Abram, and this is what I am in your life. And these things start to come to fruition. And can I go ahead and drop something in on you for just a minute? Many of you in here today said, I've been 100 days. Some of you in here today said, I've been this many days. Some of you in here today, you blew it yesterday. And yet God looks at me and you, and he says, if you will do this, I will be with you. Yes, if you'll look to me, if you'll trust me, if you'll take my word that I can help you, I will meet you in this place and I will help you. About my birthday times when it really sinks in. And I'm 42, I think. Yes, 42. Turned 42 December the 28th. And about that time it sinks in. That it's been just a little over 20 years since that night in my bedroom where I fell down and said, God, I don't even know what to say to you anymore, but I don't want to do dope, and I don't want to go to hell. Yeah. And that's all I knew to say. And he said, yes, I will. Yes, I will. And then one thing after another, here I stand today, and it's been over. Listen, I couldn't do it. I had tried since 12 years old up to that spot to get out. To get off the ride, to get it to stop, to let me off. I couldn't get off. But that night something happened. And things have been different ever since. God showed up to Abram and said, I want to be this to you if you'll let me. I want to be this to you. Let's go. Now, some of you Bible readers are like, I know it. This is proof. This is just another proof this morning that the Bible is real. And that God is real. Because God didn't hide the bad stuff. He just stuck it in there too. And there's more than this too, friend. Just start reading that book. You'll be like, somebody call Pastor. God didn't hide it. So Sarah's getting old. Abraham's getting old. And Sarah, one of the greatest things you could do in that time, a woman, was to have a child. To your husband, to bear him children. That was what gave you worth in that culture at that time. Now, that is off, by the way. That is skewed, just so you know that. But that's the way they felt, and that's the way she felt. You ever get in a situation, and my counselor helped me to see this, even if it's not real, it's real to you? I've started helping. God, it's funny. I've started sharing that with Esther some. And I haven't tried it on anybody else yet, but, we'll come into a situation and we'll be discussing on what is reality, conversing. Does anybody else do that? Does any other couples in here work that out to what reality really is? And I'm like, Esther, I know, honey, but I feel this way, and that makes it real to me. At this moment, I really feel this with all my heart. So there we are. So she felt like the only way she could be have worth, was to give him a child. Now, God had already promised him, Abram, I'm going to make you the father of many nations. Well, he probably went home and told his wife. He should have. He should have. I'm trying to learn. He should have. I don't know why I didn't tell you. I didn't know it was important. Anyway, there we go. Some of you men are scared to even shake your head right now. I didn't know it was important. And so he probably tells her, are y'all following me, or am I just messing around up here? So he goes home and tells her, and yet here she is old and she's got no kids. She's thinking, how am I going to do this? I have got to fulfill God's promises for him. I've got to make this happen. Listen, I'm preaching. If some of you listen to me, if we'll listen to this, I don't have to help God. I stepped outside these doors last week, caught up with some folks in the parking lot because God said, go catch them. I said, listen, I don't have to prop God up. He'll stand all by himself. Yeah. And I just want to come catch you and tell you that if you'll keep pursuing him, he will pursue you. You will find he is the answer. So she said, I got to fix this. So she says, hey, I got this lady that works for me. She was a servant, but pretty much in our equation of today, she worked for her. She said, I want you to... Yeah, she did. She said, I want you to take her, Abram, and I want you to have a baby with her. What? I know, it got weird, didn't it? I don't know why he said yes to that. I mean, my wife does not set me up. I want you to know that. Do not do that. That's not funny. She does not do that. Thank God, because I'm very gullible. Not to that extent. I don't know what Abram was thinking. He wasn't thinking, okay? He just was not. So he says yes. So Hagar's pregnant. She has this baby. All at once, Hagar's holding this baby, and she's so happy because she's gave Abram a son. And now Sarah's looking at her, and Abram's probably happy because he's got a baby boy. I mean, wouldn't he be? He's smiling. And then she's like, why are you smiling? Huh? Why are you smiling? It's your fault. Wait, what? Go back and read it, folks. I've read it umpteen times this past week. This is your fault, Abram. She had this baby, and now she all looking at me like, you something, I'm nothing. This your fault, boy. And he's like, what? What are you talking about? You said. Oh, there we're off, ain't we? When we get to the you did, you said, we're in big trouble. My counselor says that's the place to stop. Say, I'm going to need 10 minutes. Just give yourself 10 minutes, okay? There's some good advice. That saved you about $1,000 right there. He said, you told me, And then he gets real nervous and he does like some of us men and he speaks in incomplete sentences. Just fragments. She's like, send her away. Or no, she's so mean to her. She's so mean to her that she leaves. Okay? So how would have you liked to be in for the holiday in the tent over that weekend? Shoot. So Hagar leaves. She's like, I don't know what's going on here. Now, she probably had some quirks too. Somebody should look up here at me and say, yeah, she probably had her issues too. Yeah. Just like me and, yeah, just like us. And so Sarah's got some issues. Hagar's got some issues. Abram's got some issues. And so I want you to look at that. That is messy. That is days of our lives, another world. Is anybody about my age in this place? About 40? That's what I thought. That's exactly what I thought. So this is soap opera-ish, ain't it? It's back when we knew what streaming was, right? You either caught it when it was on or you missed it. a mess. It's a mess. I'm telling somebody in here today, it's a mess. But watch this. Watch this. Stay on the line. Stay on the line. Watch this. It's worth it. Let's go on. So now we've narrowed the heading down to Hagar. Abram says, your slave or your servant or the lady that works for you is in your hands. Do with her whatever you think's best. He's like, you do it. You're the one started this. So then Sarah, at that time it's Sarai, but for my own brain, I just go ahead and change it. God's going to change it here in a minute. I just go ahead and change it for us. Then Sarah mistreated Hagar, so she fled from her. The angel of the Lord found Hagar near a spring in the desert. It was the spring that is beside the road to Shur. And he said, meaning the angel of the Lord, which is the presence of the Lord, Hagar, slave of Sarah, where have you come from and where are you going? Now, do you think that angel had to get a recap?
No. Yeah, no.
Since when has God ever had to have you to bring him up to date?
Yeah.
Because the only way he can be God is it boils down to these three things. And some of you that's very theologically sound in this place, I know it's not this simplistic, but we're going to pretend like it is for just a minute.
Yeah.
He has to be all-knowing, he has to be all-powerful, and he has to be all-present. Okay? Everywhere, all times, inside and outside of time. I get it. I got it. Thank you. But at the same time, I'm asking you, why? Why is he asking Hagar, why are you here? What's going on? Where'd you come from? I'll tell you why he's asking her. Because he wants to open her up to start articulating what's going on inside of her.
Talk about it.
So he says, why are you here? What's going on? Tell me what's happening. They don't have a couch to lay down on. He's not got no tea to give her to sip while she tells this, you know. Here they are just right out in the open by the well. And he says, I want you to tell me what's going on. She says, listen, here's what happened to me. Here's what happened to me. I'm running away because I've been mistreated. Things are not going good. Now here I've got this baby. And now I've got nobody. Is anybody following me? I thought, wow, Lord. Here's Hagar, you know, and I'm not belittling any characters in the story, and because God, this is proof text. God does not do that. He just does not. There's no bigs, littles. He sees us. He sees us all the same, and he loves us all the same. I am a proponent of that.
Yeah.
He didn't expect that out of a hillbilly, did he? That's a big word. We're going to ask me to spell it, but I'll say it. But really, Hagar's not even any of the main characters. She's one of them that about 5 or 6 episodes in, they just kill them off. You know, don't they? Or they leave the show, you know. But no, God says, I see you. I hear you. I've seen every bit of that happen in that tent. I've seen every bit of it. I watched you leave. You never even asked me. I mean, you might have looked up to heaven and said, oh, why is this happening? But it wasn't, oh, God, will you help me? And I seen you. And I came right out here to this well to meet with you, to help you and tell you, if you will let me, I will help you through this.
Amen.
Maybe it's just because there's so many people in here today that I just feel like we're not getting it all over this. He said, if you will let me, I will help you through this. I'm not pointing my fingers. I put one hand in my pocket, the other one's holding the mic. I smile really big, put on my happy face. God says, I will help you in this place if you will let me. Let's go on. And so he makes some promises to her. You're pregnant. Yeah, go on and go back. Check this tag out. I said, Lord, that's got to go. That's got to be in there. I know you want that in there. That was the second thing he said, put that in there. It's big, it's deep, but put it in there. So they're meeting by the well. I'm going to try it. You ready? Bier Lahiri Roy. That is. Here's the name of it. Listen, later on, it gives you Bible references where people keep visiting it and visiting it. Are you listening to me? And visiting it. And when they make reference to where it is to give you a geographical pin, a GPS drop pin, they say this is the well where God met Hagar. Woo! Some of you didn't get it. This is the place. I'm naming it by the fact that Hagar came here. I met her. I gave her promises. She wasn't the main character in the story, but she mattered to me. I met her need right here. I seen her. They, boom, dropped the pin. And for years to come, people say, yep, that's the whale right there. Yeah. It is the whale of him that liveth and seeth me. He's alive. He hears me. He sees me. He is with me. Wow. You know, God gave me that little thought of Hagar, and I hadn't read that story in a long time. And God reminded me of that little portion where she says, God sees me. And I thought about it last week, and I kept trying to stuff it in. And it just didn't fit. You ever just feel like God gave you something, but it wasn't for that time? Yeah. And so I just let it go. And then about Tuesday, the Lord said, you remember that? I said, oh, I sure do. I sure do. It's so important. Because this is me and you. Yeah. I got a good friend, and he's not here today. His name's Roy. Roy made a statement a couple months ago in men's group that really, boom, plowed me right in my bald forehead. Just smack. I said, wow. Roy, you don't even know. Of course, I couldn't tell him at the time because I didn't want to take away from what he was saying because he was continuing to elaborate. But I thought, man, I'm going to just park here while these people just do their thing. I'm just going to sit here and ponder on this for a minute. Because it said that God's going to meet me, God's going to help me. Pretty much the part of the lesson was, and I can be the superhero. You know, God will lift me to this spot. And it was great. But when it was over, we had discussion from the video, and Roy said, I don't have to be the superhero. I don't have to be the one standing under the spotlight. He pretty much said this, and he laid it out so good, I can't, because my mind is not like his. They run on two different tracks. But he pretty much said this. He said, I am blessed to just be on the journey. Yeah. I am blessed to just be a part. I'm blessed to just be in the story. I'm blessed to just be here, to be in the midst. I don't have to be in the limelight. I don't have to be the superhero. So thank God if he wants to do that or whatever, but I don't have to be that. I am very comfortable and content being in the story. I said, Roy, man, you hit it, man. That's it. Spot on, brother. Spot on. So they named the well. That whole place is called because of that moment in history. She said, he hears me, he sees me, he is God. And I am still on the line. I'm still in connection. Something's going on here that's beyond me, that's above me, and I got my eyes open to it. He wants to help me. Let's go on. All right, now, Abraham gets a covenant of circumcision. Why does this matter? Because this is where the promise, the contextual promise comes to fruition for his son. That he's going to have a child, God's going to make him the father of many nations. It all is in this promise that God gives him in circumcision. If you don't know what that is, go look it up. Go Google it after church. It's the best I know what to do for you, because I don't have time. So, I think he's like 70-some years old at this point or something, and so he circumcises himself. Well, Ronnie told me the other day, I said, Ronnie, I got a tooth that's bad. I'm going February the 11th to have it pulled. He said, oh, yeah. He said, I pulled one of mine the other day. I said, who are you? You're going to knock me out, right? You may have to drive me home. So makes this promise with him. I'm going somewhere. I know this is a lot. This is a lot. Somebody look up here at me and say, I'm still on the line. Let's do this. This is a lot. But I'm still on the line. Thank God. So they get in this promise. Circumcision. Here's what's going to happen. From here on out, you're going to read the Old Testament and you're going to come across this, that Abraham was the father of faith. Abraham was the father of faith. And over and over and over, when Paul takes you back and he gives you the book of Romans and he does a recap for you and said, well, salvation's something like this. It's where Abraham believed God and God counted it to him for righteousness. Wonder where that's at? Boom, right here in this chapter. This is it. Where God said, Abraham, here's the thing. And he lays it out and Abraham says, God, I believe you. I take you. You take me, I'm with you. And they set out even from here. Do you see what's happening? You see, it's not this once and done with God. It's just not. Now, God done something back there when I said yes, but ever since then there's been a connection where, it's going to get kind of weird right here, okay? But I hear him in my heart. I hear him in my head. And I read his word and I hear from him directly from there for sure. If you can't hear from God anywhere else, you hear from him from here. And so there's this connection, there's this walk, there's this journey. That's the reason I struggle with those people who are like, well, I was baptized at 10. I'm like, yeah, but do you have a living relationship with Jesus? I'm like, well, I was baptized. Or I done this, or, whatever. I'm asking you today, back to front, left to right, do we have a relationship with Jesus? That's consistent, that's ongoing. They walked in this promise. Let's go. I got to get there. So then God asks Abraham to sacrifice his son. He said, that's crazy. I was with you, but I just lost you. I'm no longer on the line. Well, he did. And he didn't sacrifice him. Because for some reason, God knew some things about Abraham's heart. And God was working him through those. Yeah. And so Abraham said, okay. Took his son up on the mountain and reared the knife back. And God said, whoa! Don't do that. Ain't you glad Abraham was still on the line? Yeah. And hard stuff. And so they come through that together. Let's go on. I missed out of time. AJ's tablet. Are you still here? I don't know what verse or chapter that is. It's wrong. Bryce, what did you do? Did you sabotage me? So here's the deal. Ever so often, Esther goes on a business trip. And I snatch up AJ. Last time I went to my buddy's house. But sometimes I'll snatch old AJ up and I'll take him to stay the night at my mom's. Me and Mom will sit up and drink coffee. She'll tell me what's going on. I'll tell her what's going on. She'll make biscuits and gravy and bacon. But AJ don't do good at sleeping in other places. So I take his tablet. I turn on YouTube. I turn on Children's Lullaby, where it plays these instrumentals of these Christian songs just over and over and over, and I hit repeat. Well, it started a new thing that worked. But the other morning, about 4:30 in the morning, he's tugging on my arm. I'm like, whoa. He's like, Daddy, my music stopped. Of course, I'm like, okay, dear son, let's go see what's going on. Whatever. I'm coming. So I come in there and I got it, and it said this to me. It had a big heading up, and it stopped the music, and it was asking me, are you still here? Man. Man. Woo! Glory to God. I want him to. every now and then just shake things up for me. And look me square in the face and say, Matthew, are you still here? Are you still in, son? Are you still on this journey? I want it that way. Bryce, take me to the last slide as I close. Are you still on the line? Do you know the way? But it's so interesting that they told you this morning at the first of church, Jesus said he is the way, the truth, and the life. So I had an interesting experience the other day. I went to my mom's, and there's a young lady there that I have, other than my wife, I am closer to her than anybody else on the planet. And I love her so dearly. And she had her car stuck in the snow, and so I said, you're going to help me, biggin. And so she got her camouflage coveralls on, and out she came to help me. And we shoveled the snow and got her car out, and she's like, I can't drive it down this hill. I was like, oh, Dad will do it. And so Dad took it down the hill. And we got to the bottom, and I said, we're going to park it right here by these mailboxes, and I'm going to use my truck to make you a path in and out so you can pull up here out of the way, and you can just walk up and down the hill. But God had been dealing with me. And there's been some circumstances and things that I'm just not proud of. Yeah. And I felt like that the Lord had nudged me. And so I had her in the truck. You know, and we're in the snow, and I'm breaking these tracks, and I'm spinning and doing all this stuff. And just out of the blue, I said, hey, I'm not going to be here forever. So I just start crying. I said, one of these days, I said, I'm going to be gone. I said, and I need to know from you, wherever you're at right now, with the choices that you've made, I want you to look at me and tell me that if something happens to me, you know the way. You know the way to get where I'm going. I said, you've got to tell me that you can get there if I go before you do. Because I'm going. And you got to go too. And so her tears come to her eyes, and she just kind of sat there for a minute, and she said, yes, I do. Yes, I do. And so I want to say that to you today. Stay on the line. Know the way. We got to get there. Whatever it takes, through Jesus Christ, we got to go the whole way. I want to be clean. I want to be sober. I want to live that way and die that way. And then I want to go to heaven. Let's, well, I'm done. We can't let's stand. We used to, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
All right.
Good stuff, Pastor.
Well, here's what I know. I know I went a little long because you guys have been getting me up early, and now it's 12:28. So I bummed about 10 minutes from you probably. Because I'm supposed to keep it about 30 to 35. At least I know that, right? Knowing's half the battle, G.I. Joe. Esther, can you come give some announcements, or if you've got to go that way?